Hey, what is up, you sexy beasts? GhostSickness or Tristan here. Now, I normally don't start scary stories like this if you're new to my channel, but today I'm reading for you guys Borrasca, a really creepy and long, scary story that I'm gonna have to split into multiple parts because YouTube won't let me upload videos longer than 15 minutes right now. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna be doing that, and if we can smash 1,000 likes on this video, it's gonna be an amazing, scary story, so you gotta stick with it. You guys are gonna absolutely love it. I'm gonna read it and finish on the story, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. It's a long story, but one you've never heard before. The story is about a place that dwells on the mountain, a place where bad things happen. And you may think you know about the bad things, you may decide you have it all figured out, but you don't, because the truth is worse than monsters or men. At first I was upset when they told me we were moving to some little town out in the Ozarks. I remember staring at my dinner plate while I listened to my sister throw a temper tantrum unbefitting of a 14-year-old honors student. She cried, she pleaded, and then she cursed at my parents. She threw a bowl at my dad and told him it was all his fault. Mom told Whitney to calm down, but she stormed off, slamming every door in the house on the way to her room. I secretly blamed my dad as well. I'd heard the whispers too. My dad had done something wrong, something bad, and the sheriff's department had reassigned him some little out-of-the-way county to save face. My parents didn't want me to know that, but I did. I was 9, so it didn't take me long to warm to the idea of a change. It was like an adventure, new house, new school, new friends. Whitney, of course, felt the opposite. Moving to a new school at her age is hard. Moving away from her new boyfriend, however, was even harder. While the rest of us packed up our things and said our goodbyes, Whitney sulked and cried and threatened to run away from home. But a month later, when we pull up to our new house in Drisking, Missouri, she was sitting right next to me, texting viciously on her phone. Thankfully, we moved over the summer and I had months of free time to explore the town. When Dad started his new job at the sheriff's office, Mom drove us around the city, commenting on this and that. The city was much smaller than St. Louis, but also a lot nicer. There was no bad areas, and the entire town looked like something you'd see on a postcard. Drisking was built in a mountain valley surrounded by healthy forest land with walking trails and crystal clear lakes. I was 9, it was summer, and this was heaven. We'd only been living in Drisking a week or so when our next door neighbors came by to introduce themselves, Mr. and Mrs. Landy and their 10-year-old son, Kyle. While our parents talked and drank mimosas, I watched the Landys' lanky, red-headed son hung out in the doorway, shyly eyeing the PS2 in the living room. Do you play? I asked. He shrugged. Not really. Do you wanna? I just got Tekken 4. Kyle glanced at his mom, who had just been handed her third mimosa. Yeah, sure. And that afternoon, with the ease and simplicity of our age, Kyle and I became best friends. We spent the cool summer mornings outside exploring the Ozarks and the hot afternoons in my living room playing the PS2. He introduced me to the only other kid in our neighborhood our age, a skinny, quiet girl named Kimber DeStaro. She was shy but friendly and always up for anything. Kimber kept up with us so well that she quickly became the third wheel on our tricycle. With my dad at work all the time, my mom consumed with her new friendships, and my sister locked in her room all day, the summer was ours to take, and take it we did. Kyle and Kimber showed me where all the best hiking trails were, which lakes were the best and most accessible by bike, and where the best stores were in town. By the time the first day of school rolled around in September, I knew I was home. On the last Saturday before school started, Kyle and Kimber told me they were going to take me somewhere special, somewhere we hadn't been yet, the Triple Tree. What's a Triple Tree? I asked. It's totally awesome, totally huge treehouse out in the woods, Kyle said excitedly. Whatever, Kyle. Come on, you guys. If there was a freaking treehouse, you guys would have showed it to me already. Nuh-uh, we wouldn't have. Kyle shook his head. There's a ceremony for first-timers and everything. Kimber nodded eagerly in agreement, her dark orange curls bouncing off of her tiny shoulders. Yep, it's true, Sam. If you ever enter the treehouse without the proper ceremony, you'll disappear and then you'll die. My face fell. Now I knew they were making fun of me. That's a lie. You guys are lying to me. No, we're not, Kimber insisted. Yeah, we'll show you. We just have to get the knife for the ceremony and we'll go. What? Why do you need a knife? Is it a blood ceremony? I whispered. No way, Kimber promised. You just say some words and carve your name into the Triple Tree. Yup. It takes like 1 minute, Kyle agreed. And it's a really cool treehouse? I asked. Oh yeah, Kyle promised. Okay, I guess I'll do it then. Kyle insisted on using the same knife he'd used during his own ceremony, but we paid a price to get it. Mrs. Landy had just happened to be home with her youngest son, Parker, and despite Kyle's many objections with his mother, she insisted that we take his 6-year-old brother with him. Mom, we're going to the treehouse. It's only for older kids. Parker can't go. I don't care if you're going to the Exorcist movie marathon. You're taking your brother with you. I need a break, Kyle. Can't you understand that? And I'm sure your friends won't mind. She flashed Kimber and me a challenging look. right? No, not at all, Kimber said, and I nodded in agreement. Kyle made a loud, dramatic sigh and called his brother, Parker, put your shoes on, we're leaving now. I'd met the youngest Landy several times before and found out that he was as unlike his older brother in looks as in disposition. Where Kyle was a wild, excitable fireball with hair to match, I found Parker to be an anxious, fidgety boy with small eyes and dark brown hair. We got on our bikes and made our way to a lesser-known hiking trail a few miles away. I'd asked before where the trail led when we'd ridden across it several weeks before, and Kyle had given me the underwhelming answer of nowhere interesting. We pulled up to the trailhead and leaned our bikes against the wooden signpost, which read West Rim Prescott or Trail. Why are so many trails around here named Prescott? I asked. Is this Prescott Mountain or something? Kimber laughed. No, dummy. It's because of the Prescotts. You know, the family that lives in the mansion up on Fairmont. Mr. Prescott and his son Jimmy own like half of the businesses in this town. More than half, Kyle agreed. Which ones? Does he own the GameStop? It was the only store in Drisking that I really cared about. I don't know about that one. Kyle wound a lock around the 4 bikes and clicked the bar into place, then spun the numbers on the dial. But like the hardware store, the pharmacy, Gilton's on Second, and the newspaper. Did they start this town? I asked. Nah, mining started this town. I want to go home. Parker had been so quiet I'd completely forgotten he was there. You can't go home, Kyle rolled his eyes. Mom said I had to bring you. Now come on, it's only like a 2-mile walk. I want to take my bike, Parker answered. Too bad, we're going off trail. I don't want to go, I'll stay here with the bikes. Don't be such a wussy. I'm not. Kyle, be nice, Kimber hissed. He's only 5. I'm 6, Parker objected. I'm sorry, 6. You're 6. Kimber smiled at him. All right, fine. He can hold your hand if he wants, but he's coming. Kyle turned and started up the trail. Parker's face fell into an undignified frown. When the charming Kimber stuck her hand out and wiggled her fingers at him, he took it. Kyle was right. It wasn't a long walk. Only a half-mile down the trail and then another half-mile on the well-tread path up to the mountain. It was a steep climb though, and by the time we got to the treehouse, I was winded. What do you think? Kyle asked excitedly. I studied the tree as I caught my breath. It's pretty awesome. I smiled, and it was. They hadn't lied. The treehouse was the biggest I'd ever seen. It had multiple rooms, and there were actual curtains in the windows. A sign above the door said Apricot Fort, and a rope ladder hung below the threshold, missing several planks. I'm going up first, yelled Parker, but Kimber caught his arm. You have to go to the ceremony first or you'll disappear, she reminded him. That'll be fine with me, Kyle grumbled. I was eager to get into the fort myself. Give me the knife. I held out my hand. Kyle smiled and dug the switchblade out of his pocket. There's some space in the back to carve your name. I opened up the knife and walked around the tree looking for an empty spot. There were so many names on the tree, I had to crunch down and look near the bottom since I couldn't reach any higher. I spotted both Kyle and Kimber's carvings on the tree, and I finally found a spot I liked near the ladder. I bit my tongue and carved Sam W. into a blank piece of bark underneath. Someone named Paul Parker went next, but had so much trouble with the knife that Kyle had to do it for him. Alright, let's go. I ran over to the rope ladder. Wait, Kyle yelled. You have to say the words first. Oh yeah, okay, what are they? Kimber sang them out. Underneath the triple tree there is a man who waits for me, and should I go or should I stay, my fate's the same that either way. That's creepy, I said. What does it mean? Kimber shrugged. No one knows anymore. It's just tradition. Okay, can you say it for me one more time, slower? Once Parker and I had recited the poem, we were ready to go. I climbed the rope ladder first and took stock of my new surroundings. The treehouse was more or less empty, just a dirty rug here and there and some trash, old soda cans, beer cans, and fast food wrappers. I went room to room, 4 in total, and found nothing of real interest until the last one. An old mattress lay in the corner and piles of musty, ripped clothing scattered the floor. Did a hobo live here? Nah, this room has been like this for as long as I can remember, Kyle said from the doorway behind me. It smells gross, I said. Kimber walked up to the threshold but refused to go any further. It's not the smell that freaks me out, it's that. She pointed up to the ceiling and I raised my eyes to read what was written there. Road to the gates of hell, mile marker 1. What does it mean? I asked. It's just older kids being dicks, Kyle said. Come on, I'll show you guys the best part of this treehouse. We walked back into the first room, and Parker looked up at us and smiled, pointing down to what he'd clumsily carved into the wooden floor. Fart, Kyle read. That's hilarious, Parker. He rolled his eyes, but his little brother didn't pick up on the sarcasm and smiled proudly. Kimber sat down on the floor next to Parker, and I sat on his other side. Kyle took the knife from his brother and then walked across the room and wedged the blade between 2 planks on the wooden wall. He pushed and the board gave, opening up a small secret compartment in the wall. Kyle took something out and pushed the plank back until it was flush with the others. "Check it out!" He turned and proudly held up 2 cans of Miller Lite beer. "Whoa," I said. "Ew, warm beer? That's gross. How do you even know it was there?" Kimber asked. "Phil Saunders told me." "Are we gonna drink it?" I asked. "Hell yeah, we're gonna drink it." Kyle came and sat down in our circle, popping open the first beer and offered it to Kimber. She eyed it like he was trying to hand her a dirty diaper. "Come on, Kimmy, don't call me that," she yelled at him, and then she reluctantly took the open beer. She smelled it and made a face, then pinched her nose and took a small swig. Kimber shuddered. "That was even grosser than I imagined." "I don't want any. I'll tell Mom," Parker said quickly as the beer passed in front of him to me. "Good, 'cause you ain't getting any," Kyle promised, "and you won't tell Mom shit." I put on my best poker face and took a long, deep swallow of the warm beer before I had the chance to smell it. It was a poor decision, and when I retched, the foul yellow liquid went all over my shirt. Aw man, now I'm gonna smell like beer. We spent the whole hour and a half drinking the 2 cans of Miller Lite, and after a while, the taste grew more tolerable. I couldn't tell if I was becoming a man or actually getting drunk. I hoped it was the former. When the last drop of beer was consumed, we spent 20 minutes trying to determine if we were drunk. Kyle assured us that he was wasted, while Kimber wasn't sure. I didn't think I was, but I failed all of our drunk tests. Kimber was in the middle of reciting the alphabet backwards when a loud metallic grinding suddenly pierced the calm mountain air like a gunshot. Kimber stopped talking and we spent a few minutes staring at each other, waiting for the noise to end. Parker curled into Kimber and put his hands over his ears. After what seemed like 10 whole minutes, the sound ended as suddenly as it had begun. "What was that?" I asked, and Parker mumbled something into Kimber's sweatshirt. "Do you guys know?" I tried again. Kimber stared at her feet and she crossed and uncrossed them. "Well, it's nothing," Kyle finally answered. "We hear it sometimes in town. It's not a big deal. It's just louder up there." "But what's making that sound?" "Borrasca," Kimber whispered without taking her eyes off her feet. "Who's that?" I asked. "Not who, where," Kyle answered. "It's a place." "Another town?" "No, it's just a place in the woods." "Oh, bad things happen there," Kimber said, more to herself than me. "Like what? Bad things?" Kimber repeated. "Yeah, don't ever try to find it, dude," Kyle said behind me, "or bad things will happen to you too." "But like, what bad things?" I turned around, Kyle shrugged, and Kimber stood up and walked over to the rope ladder. "We'd better go. I have to get home to my mom," she said. We climbed down the ladder one by one and then started the walk back to the trailhead in an unfamiliar silence. I was dying of curiosity about Borrasca, but couldn't decide if and what to ask about it. "So, who lives there?" "Where?" Kyle asked. "Borrasca. The skinned men," Parker answered. "Pfft," Kyle laughed. "Only babies believe that." "Like men who are skinned? Like their skin is gone?" I asked excitedly. "Yeah, that's what some kids say. Most of us stop believing in that, though, when we turn double digits," Kyle said. I looked back at Kimber, who was still 9, like me, but she was staring down the trail, ignoring us. That seemed to be the end of the conversation, and by the time we reached our bikes, the awkwardness was gone. We were giggling, trying to decide if we were too drunk to bike home.